The official offseason has begun. It is Monday night. The Mincey to Kentucky news dropped like 4 minutes before we started recording. The portal season is the portal season. Yep. They say it giveth and taketh away. I didn't realize that was going to be all on the same day, but it happens.
45, 40, 35, 40, he's gonna go! It's time people feel us!
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day, we get better and better! We get better and better! Team is KPB! If we die, we die!
Man, woman, and child in that, put them in the aisle.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln!
Welcome into another episode of the Big Red Junkies. I am BJ. This is Jed. This is Matt. The season has officially come to an end. We're going to do everything we possibly can not to remind you of the atrocities that happened on the last day of the year. If you don't know what I'm talking about, good for you.
Yeah, your season ended a month ago, and you're probably better off for it.
Yeah. No. To address the bowl game, that was an embarrassment. It was terrible. It felt like a continuation of everything that we saw for the second half of the Penn State game and the Iowa State game, or the Iowa game.
Hey, those first two drives were marvelous.
Like he said, it was the same as what we've seen in the previous two games.
That's also the one positive thing that I have to point out is, Matt, holy crap, did you call that? Like it couldn't have been called. He said on the show, the preview show, the first two drives that are scripted are going to look great and the rest of it's going to look like shit. And there was actually I
didn't realize we were scripting the defense too.
In the middle of like the third quarter.
Like I said, were we bringing in new players for the bowl game?
You're not wrong.
I was just more right. That's all.
Yes, sir. No, I'm giving it to you. Be right. That's cool.
At the beginning of the third quarter, there was a graphic they put up on the screen. It literally was talking about the first two drives and since then, and it was like 192 yards or something like that in the first two drives, and then 12 yards for the rest of it, and no first downs. Wild.
Not great.
Absolutely wild.
So thanks for not reminding us about that.
Yeah. No, it was a rough one. Luckily, the year has turned, and it is time to look forward to 2026. The official offseason has begun. It is Monday night. The Mincey to Kentucky news dropped like 4 minutes before we started recording. The portal season is the portal season. Yep. They say it giveth and taketh away. I didn't realize that was going to be all on the same day, but it happens.
Yeah, it's... I don't like to deal with things until they actually happen, so, cool. I mean...
Yeah. It's wild. It's wild. It's weird. I'm going to choose to basically bury my head in the sand with this stuff until it all comes out on the end, because I'm still hopeful and believe in Matt Rhule rebuilding the program.
Yeah.
I would say kind of need to be at this point. We're already locked in.
We're what some people might call pot committed.
Yeah, 100% for at least another 2 years.
Yeah, it's wild, but I do want to find out how poorly I did in the questions real quick on the bowl game, and then we're going to get down to the season recap. We did the preseason questions, which apparently I did like the best that I've ever done, which is still really, really bad.
It's not saying too much.
And then we're going to find out who won the season. We're going to find out who won the season in our PFF fantasy bracket.
You can feel better about that.
And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we expect the rest of the portal season to be like leading up to spring training.
The questions, you brought up the whole thing of that graphic on the third quarter stuff with the bowl game where this many yards in the beginning and then since then.
Yeah.
This first question is actually kind of one of those factors where it was the question was rushing yards by Nebraska running backs, 99.5. After the first quarter, those three guys had 93 yards.
Wow.
So we were like blown out of the water. We all took the over except for the fans. They took the under. They ended with 134 for the entire game. So it was like, we're looking at 93 after the first quarter. You're, maybe 170, 180.
Yeah.
For all three of those guys combined. And they didn't do anything the rest of the game.
We looked like we're going to be able to run whatever we wanted to in those first two drives.
Except Utah did. They did this weird thing where I think the word is starts with an A. Adjust. That's what they did. We need to figure out how to do that.
They did scoring a lot of points.
Yeah. Second question was Devin Dampier rushing yards minus 19.5 versus TJ Lateef rushing yards That definitely hit Dampier with the over 148-22. BJ, you were the only one to take Latif on that one. Who will have a higher completion percentage, Nebraska or Utah? Utah was 61.3, Nebraska was 53.6. I was the only one to take Utah on that one. Pressures by Nebraska's defense, 8.5. They ended up with 10. I don't really know how, but they did, according to Pro Football Focus. Us three took the over. The fans took the under.
They did a lot of getting close to him and barely touching his jersey and then getting pushed away from him.
And then him running for 100.
That probably counts as a rush.
Yeah, a pressure.
Whatever.
Sacks allowed by Nebraska's offense, 1.5. They gave up 3. Us three were stupid enough to take the under. The fans took the over on that one. Who will have the leading wide receiver / tight end in receiving yards, Utah or Nebraska? Utah had that one with their tight end had 106 yards. Our leading guy had 48. They actually had like 5 guys over 50 yards. So they threw the ball around a lot too.
Yeah.
Who will have the higher average punt return yard? Utah had 0.5 per return. They had 2 returns for 1 yard. Nebraska had 0 return yards for 0 punts returns. So they
felt like a throwback game.
They win by 0.5.
It felt like a throwback game. They were doing a really good job getting coverage on us, though.
By the way, on the previous question with the receiver, Matt, you were the only one to take Utah on that one. Everybody took Nebraska on the punt return yards, so everybody lost that one. Question 8 was Utah third down conversion percentage, 49.5. It was exactly 50%. Matt, myself, and the fans took the over on that one. Tackles by Javin
had a
Wright.
great game.
Yeah. Tackles by Javin Wright, 7.5. He only ended up with 3. Everybody took the over on that one, so everybody got that one wrong.
We were just hoping for him.
Yeah, that's kind of what that was. BJ, you went 3-6 for the bowl game. Matt went 6-3. The fans also went 3-6, and I went 7-2.
Oof.
As far as the people on YouTube, Emmett won this week by going 6-3. Hunter, Travis, and Corgi Dad went 5-4. Hayden Logston lost badly, even worse than you did. He went 1-8.
Way to go, Hayden.
Well, it wasn't last.
No.
We do love you guys following along and participating on that stuff.
Yeah, that Hunter who got second in this one, he made a comment. He said this has been the highlight of his football year doing these picks.
Wow,
well, it definitely wasn't the Husker season.
No.
Hey, and you won, unlike the rest of the boys.
Yeah. Going into the season preview or preseason picks, the first one was Dylan Raiola passing yards, 3,400 yards. Obviously, that was the under. It probably would have gone under anyway because he had 2,000 yards when he got injured.
Yeah.
Elijah and myself took the under on that one. Will Nebraska get to the 40-20 where Rhule has been saying he wants 40 sacks and 20 takeaways on the defense? We had 22 and 13, so not close really on either end of there.
No.
Matt and myself took the under on that one, said no. Emmett Johnson, total offensive yards, 1,200. I think he definitely got that a little bit.
Yeah.
He had 1821 total.
Just squeaked by.
Yeah. Everybody took the over on that one, so everybody got that one right. Will the leading tackler have over under 90.5 tackles? Javin Wright ended with 86. Matt, you were the only...
Good line. It's a good line.
It was. Matt, you were the only one to take the under on that one. As far as a kind of a bonus question was who was going to lead the team in tackles, and Elijah was the only one to take Javin Wright.
Nice.
Who will have...
He's way behind in picks.
Dude, it's like he didn't even turn his picks for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
He could have been in the comments.
Who will have more tackles for loss between these 4 guys? Riley Van Poppel, Vincent Shavers, Watson Trent, or Cam Lenhart? Poppel had 2.5. Well, actually, everybody other than Shavers had 2.5, and Shavers had 7.5. So Shavers got that one. Elijah and the fans got that one right. Dane Key receiving yards at 1,000. He didn't even get half that. He had 452. Everybody took the under on that one. Nebraska players on the Big Ten 3-deep all-conference team. I put the number at 2.5. We had 3. I was the only one dumb enough to take the under on that one. I thought we'd have 1 or 2, but
You only missed it by 1 player.
yeah. It's kind of one of those, like if Williams wouldn't have had his kickoff return for a touchdown, maybe he probably doesn't get on that list.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he did. So, sacks allowed by Nebraska's offensive line, 24.5. We had 30. We give up 33. Elijah and myself took the over on that one. Punt returns of 10-plus yards, 9.5. We had 12. Elijah and the fans took the over on that one. Nebraska scoring defensive ranking, 20.5. We ended up at 67. Elijah and myself took said no on that one. And then the last one was Nebraska offensive points per game, 30 points per game. And we were at 28.7. Matt and myself took the under there. As far as the totals, BJ went 3-8 for the preseason picks. Matt went 6-5. The fans went 5-6. I went 7-4, and Elijah went 8-3. So Elijah won that.
Wow. Elijah, way to go.
It's almost like he's a professional or something.
Yeah, no kidding.
As far as the season, I'm going to go to the YouTube picks first as far as who won that one. So I kind of just broke it down as far as I got everybody in here. We had over 70 people pick at least one game this year.
That's wild. Thank you guys so
Yeah.
much. That's awesome participation.
Yeah, that was cool. So I kind of we had like 111 questions. So I kind of just did like almost a halfway. So anybody that picked 50 or more questions, we had 11 people do that.
Wow.
Of the people that did
Super
that,
fans right there.
as far as the percentage that you got right, we brought up Hunter earlier. It said it was the highlight of his football year. He was tied for first with the YouTube fans at 57.6% correct.
Way to go,
Nice.
Hunter.
GBR 14 also had 57.6%. Fireball had 56.8. Everybody else was below 50%. Julie, by the way, who we haven't seen the last couple of weeks, but she was at 46%.
Wow.
She guessed exactly 50 questions. So as far as we go, going into that last game, it was tied at 50%.
Mo.
Between Matt, BJ, and the fans. So after the Utah game, BJ, you were at 48.1%. Matt, you were at 50.3%. I was at 48.9%. And the fans were at 48.6%. But after the preseason ones go in, BJ, you went down even farther to 46.6%. The fans were at 48.3%. I was at exactly 50%. And Matt, you won by one fucking pick at 50.6%.
Back to back.
You had 45 or 75 correct. I had 74 correct.
I'm pretty
Back
sure
to back.
I'm pretty sure that's 3 years in a row for me finishing that last.
Nobody remembers losers. Just the winners. That was me. Winners was me.
I needed to pick up like 3 going into that last game, and I picked
You got
up,
close.
I picked up 2, I guess. So
Matt, how did the fantasy wrap up?
Really close, actually. So I'm not gonna make you wait near as long as Jed did. You won on a technicality because I had 5.
That was better.
yeah,
I mean, not
That
really.
it's
is
not
the
really a
technicality.
technicality.
You-
It's part of the rules.
You only lost by like 50 points to both of us this last during the bowl game. But yeah, after finishing third the last 2 weeks, you still somehow squeaked out the win. We both had 5 wins. Jed had 3, and you had the most points. So you got to
Do you have a top performer in the league for the season for us?
I'm sure I can find one.
I was gonna say I've got it up here too. As far as on offense, it was Emmett with 85.5,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
and then defense is, of course, it won't load right away. Well, these 2 guys didn't play enough. Javin Wright, 79.6.
Javin Wright.
Yep.
Good farewell from Javin Wright. On to 26, because I've had enough of the losing on that side of things.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has. I want to ask you guys a couple quick questions before we jump into any other of our off-season predictions or anything like that. I'm curious, and you guys should drop your comments. These are your questions to answer in the comments for this one.
Thought we were done
You thought we were done?
with questions for the year.
Oh, well, there's these are
Always
these are not
This
these
is for
are
upcoming year,
Yeah,
not last year.
these are not right or wrong questions. These are more of opinion questions.
Which means you're wrong if you don't have the same opinion. I'm kidding.
Well, I don't even know. I don't
No,
think we're probably going to have the same opinion on things. First and foremost, and this is a question I actually heard on the radio this afternoon. I'm sure you heard the same question. It was when Michael Severe was on 1620 this afternoon. Where is your comfortability level or confidence level, I guess I should say? What's your confidence rating in Matt Rhule still being the guy?
It's not nearly as high as it was. I mean, were you asking for like a 1 to 10? You know, or
give me a percentage.
School grade?
A percentage.
Oh, percentage? 60% at best.
I gotta ask the guy
And
compared.
it's trending down.
The guy compared to what? I've
No,
said
no,
for
no,
a long
This
time.
is your confidence whether or not you think he's still the guy to get Nebraska turned around, to continue to elevate the program and bring us back to actual national relevancy.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely still the guy because you got to give somebody a long time to build a program the right way.
Now, when I said 60% at best and it's trending down, that is not me trying to say that there has not been progress, because there absolutely has been progress.
There's been progress.
So I'm not trying to trash everything that's been happening so far, but it's not going great, and it's not really trending that way either. So
That's the thing about trends is they don't tell you the story.
Yeah.
There's going to be ups and downs as you climb through every single year. You got to give coaches a long time
I
to do
completely
something well.
agree.
So he's still my guy.
And of course, you say that, and again, I completely agree. I can see the comments, whether they actually put them on the comment thing or not, is, well, it didn't take Signetti that long. It's like, okay, fine.
That's an
You know,
outlier.
exactly.
No, it did.
But on the other
Cincinnati
side-
built that program
Yeah.
and then picked it up and took it to Indiana. So
One of my biggest things about everybody bringing up Signetti all the time is, I'm sorry to tell you this, but let's say Nebraska would have hired Signetti. How would it have gone over in Nebraska land if Nebraska tells Trev Albert stands up there, and however you feel about Trev Alberts now is irrelevant. If Trev Albert stands up there and says Nebraska is hiring the head coach of James Madison, that would have gone over horrifically with most of the fans.
Oh, and by the way, all of the players that you
Yeah.
like, they're out too because he's bringing his whole team with him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, they would have hated it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, they would have grown to like it because he clearly wins. Google him.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about
It's a lot
going.
easier now.
Yeah. Going into it, if Trev Alberts would have stood there and said, we're hiring the head coach of James Madison. No. And I can say that confidently because I'm hearing it now where people are like, I don't want Ulrich to bring in all of his South Dakota or San Diego State players because they're just played at San Diego State. Or I don't want the All-Star because, Watson Trent
Where do you
didn't play
think
the way
half of
that...
our transfers are going to come from?
Well, because Watson Trent didn't, quote unquote, live up to what we were expecting as the Sun Belt Player of the Year. We don't want all these Sun Belt or MAC guys. I heard it on the radio multiple times in other comments on Twitter and whatever else. And I know Twitter isn't the world, but whatever.
On that point, though,
No,
I think there's
everybody's
a difference.
Complain, oh, I don't want all these low. Well, sorry, but where else are you going to get guys?
Also, you're not the ones evaluating talent.
Yeah.
They're coming from those schools because they're better than being at those schools.
Yeah, because you can look at the Marquise Watson Trent thing, and you can look at his size, and you had to know that it was probably going to be a little bit different
Tough.
for him in the Big Ten.
Mhm.
That's just a plain across the board. You could look at his size and know he was not a Big Ten linebacker. At the same time, though, you have to be able to look at a guy who came over from Idaho, and Andrew Marshall, a dude that we didn't expect to be able to do anything, who then is grading out as one of the top 25 DBs in the country,
Mhm.
and is a dude that we fully expect to be a top 3 or 4 round draft pick by the end of next year.
Yep.
So when you look at it from that perspective, you kind of got to look at you
look at both sides of it.
you let both sides go. At the same time, you're totally right. If we would have said we're hiring James Madison's head coach in that coaching search, it would have been a disaster.
Yeah, it would have been
People would have
chaos.
lost their shit. Especially if he came in and acted the way he did coming into
Mhm.
Indiana. Everybody would have been like, every person that hated Bo for his attitude.
Yeah, where'd
and-
Bo
and
Pelini's
his-
evil
and his
stepbrother
swagger,
come from?
It would have been 10 times worse
Yes.
until he started winning.
Somebody pointed out that Signetti looks exactly like Bob Parr's boss at the insurance agency in The Incredibles, and I can't stop seeing it now.
He looks like the Dan Aykroyd character in Tommy Boy.
You know what I actually think he looks like? And it kind of freaks me out a lot. And
Don't say it.
you're not old enough to remember when Dad used to wear
Yeah,
wireframe
no,
glasses.
just
He
not.
actually looks like he could be our dad's brother.
Only because he looks kind of like you're doing something wrong.
That's not why. He has a lot of similar characteristics. He kind
Like
of
you
looks
just
like
got
that.
home. Your mom said she's mad at you. What'd you do?
Well, it never sounded that nice.
What did to me? I'm the youngest.
No, I when you look at the coaches that are being hired around the country right now, the guy from North Texas that went and took the Oklahoma State job,
Yeah.
that's going to be, in my opinion, that's going to be a great hire. That's going to be a super similar to the Signetti type transfer. That's what
Only
they're
if he
hoping
takes
for.
all of North Texas with him.
And he has.
He took his quarterback, yeah.
You're also seeing the guy that went from JMU out to UCLA take a good majority of his team with him too.
Yeah, you already recruited him.
It'll be interesting to see what's going to happen with these players and these coach movements over the next 5 to 10 years. I think once you see, like you pointed out before the show, once you see contracts start to roll down and things like that on the player side of things, that should start to slow down. But as long as we're going to have...
Bad thing is I think the contracts are a long ways away.
They might be. You're already seeing language put into contracts right now where essentially your NIL deal can be terminated at any moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, and players are already getting sued for damages, essentially, from companies.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't think they're as far away as we think.
George is suing was he a wide receiver or a DB, one or the other that left. And they're suing him for like $120,000.
Yeah. But every company who paid a player something and then they left, they're suing them now.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
With our quarterback situation that just happened before we started recording, I was reminded of this tweet by Josh Peterson this was late last week. He wrote about this with the potential of Kenny Mincey coming in, or as far as just looking for a quarterback. And he said, more than anything, this will probably have the biggest impact on shaping the 2026 season. Assuming TJ Lateef isn't the presumed starter, I see 3 paths the programs could take. So I'm going to give you 3 paths. And which one would you prefer Nebraska to take?
Yeah.
1, bring in a proven Power 4 starter who will assuredly cost some money. 2, bring in a proven Group of 5 or FCS starter who will cost less money and allow you to fill other gaps. Or 3, bring in a former highly ranked high school player focusing less on experience and more on unproven potential. And that's kind of what Mincey was as far as the number 3, as far as a former highly ranked high school kid and that doesn't have the...
He doesn't really have any playing time yet.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it actually comes down to whether or not we actually have the money that Rhule said we have, because we seem like we're not getting the players that we want. I don't know if that's a money thing or a coaching thing, but all the players seem to love him. So what gives?
Yeah.
Because of that, I think you can't take the first option because you need to build a team, not a player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the camp of I don't really care which option it is. I want him to be a quarterback that's going to come in and not lose us games and can actually fit a system that we can run and be successful in past the first 2 drives.
Well, I mean, that's an obvious thing. But it's more about what are you looking for going into who you're going to be starting to talk to in the portal.
I'm probably looking for the upstart guy that's not going to cost as much.
Okay.
That's just me personally.
I agree.
I think all the money in the world right now needs to be focused on the trenches.
Yeah.
Period. I don't give a crap who we currently have on the roster. Everybody lost their mind when they saw Keanu Davis jump in the portal. And my initial reaction was, wow, that's probably not a good sign. But at the same time, I think about who he is as a player and what his body type is. He's a tweener for the system that we're going to run moving forward.
We also don't have a D-line coach.
And I think that's part of why we haven't seen as much traction with D-line portal guys.
I'm sorry, we didn't have a good D-line period this last year.
Yeah.
So getting upset about one of the better ones leaving might not.
And he can have all the potential in the world, but clearly he hasn't shown it yet. Whether that's coaching fault or player fault is honestly kind of irrelevant. Something is not clicking with him.
Yeah.
So,
well, and if you go look at,
or at least hasn't yet.
If you go look at the body types of the guys that Oric's been successful with on the D-line, you've got bigger dudes at D tackle and you've got smaller dudes at the edge, and he's a tweener when it comes to that body type. He's too heavy to be playing on the edge in that system, and he's not big enough to be playing inside in that system. And so I look at it and I say, yeah, cool. He probably has a lot of upside potential, and everybody heard one person compare him to a future Sue, potentially. He's 35, 40 pounds lighter than what Sue was when he was elite at Nebraska, and the production wasn't there to keep him around and try and justify using him in a way that his body type doesn't fit.
Also, you can pick just about any defensive lineman and say, that's going to be a future Sue, until they actually go do that. It doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
People were enamored with his size coming in as a true freshman, and since then, the production just hasn't been there the way we needed it to be. And with the exception of maybe losing Winery, I don't know that I would be devastated by anybody off that D-line being gone.
No.
After what we've seen. That's
honestly, even Van Poppel. I mean, he's got just as much potential as Keanu Davis does.
That's the first name that comes to mind when I said the comment that I said, is if he's gone, he's gone. We need to hire a D-line coach. I think that should have been a bigger priority, and probably was a big priority before the portal started, but now at this point,
for whatever reason, it didn't work out.
It didn't work out. At this point, I just hope we make a good hire. The only thing that really makes sense to me is either it's a guy that they're waiting for in the NFL, or it's a guy that, which I hope it's not another NFL guy, to be honest with you. I want a college guy. Or it's a guy that's currently coaching on a roster that's still playing.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that really makes sense. Outside of that, who knows where we're going with that. But yeah, the Kenny Mincey from Notre Dame thing, I thought that he was a really good pick for us simply because he was going to be lower on the cost side of things, would be able to come in and compete in a true quarterback battle, where he also just got done doing at Notre Dame, a high-level program where he competed until the very last week before the season started, and it was publicized that it wasn't an easy choice.
Well, yeah, there's reports of some people that said that most people inside the program thought that Mincey won the battle. They just liked Carr's, maybe his size and things like that just better, and they just picked him. But there are people inside Notre Dame that thought Mincey actually won the battle. So
yeah,
who knows?
I don't get it. I do think it's kind of funny. Will Compton, I bashed him real fast, like not real bashed him, but I bashed him when he dropped this right as the Nebraska game was ending against Ohio State. Awesome win, by the way, 15-0, pretty cool. But they that got interrupted by Will Compton popping out there saying, "Oh my God, Nebraska fans, brace yourself, it's bad." And I was like, if you're gonna break the news, break the damn news.
Well, while everybody's celebrating going 15-0, having the best start ever, Will drops this. Now, granted, the news would have came out anyway, but still, it was just
Also, some of us really just don't give a shit about college basketball.
After then on 3 releases the whole Mincey's now flipped to Kentucky thing. Well, Compton follows it up like 15 minutes later. Kenny Mincey just fucked Nebraska. He put this out on X. Go check it out. Kenny Mincey just fucked Nebraska. He committed, was supposed to visit tomorrow. Agent had paperwork and said he was signing. Kentucky hit him with a blank check. Lack of honor and spine led him to switching before signing the contract. Agent complied. I think that's hilarious. It is what it is. I don't understand why we're
college
trash.
football these
I don't
days.
understand why we're.
It's
That's
college
what I was
football
gonna
these
say.
days.
It is.
welcome to the world.
Until they put some rules around it, nobody's going to give a shit.
And loyalty is not loyalty until
No.
the guy's in the door and been bleeding here for a bit. So it is what it is.
I talked about this with Jed before we even started the show. You can't expect players to be loyal when coaches aren't loyal. Coaches move around just as much as players do in college football.
Well, and you have a brand new coach at Kentucky who is probably able to promise, hey, we're not going to have you competing. You're going to come in here and have a starting job.
Yeah.
And he wasn't going to get that opportunity at Nebraska.
Yep.
Coming in.
I think he would have been the starter, but
I think
it
he
would
would
have
have
gone
won
in
the
as-
job,
yeah.
most likely.
Yeah.
We also don't know who the other quarterback is that we're going to bring in the portal.
Yeah.
And if it was a 3-way quarterback battle, you think he really wanted to go through that again when he has a guaranteed offer over here in the same money or better money?
Especially
Who
when
knows?
he's already tired of competing and losing for his job.
We're also seeing a very different approach this year, and I've expected to see a different approach because we have Pat Kraft going through and acting as GM and being the talent acquisition guy, as opposed to it being on Matt Rhule at the top and him relying on coaches. So it's going to be a different approach. It's probably a little bit more pro style because he comes from the pros, but I think we're getting a taste of that right now. And I know that the portal hasn't heated up quite as fast as what Husker fans were probably hoping for. But we did land 2 really big names today, 2 really big guys that fill 2 really big needs for us.
That
Owen,
a really big one more time.
well, Brendan Black, coming from Iowa State, is really big.
Yeah, he's big. He's a big guy.
He's been playing at right guard, started all this last season at right guard for Iowa State, started a couple games at left guard 2 years ago.
There is no way that dude is only 285 pounds.
there was a quote that I saw from
That's wrong because somebody posted that at 331 or something like that.
That's what I mean.
Had him listed at 331.
There's no way he's only 285.
somebody put a comment. I think it might have been Brian Christopherson put out a tweet saying that he talked to or saw a quote from Black's former offensive line coach at Iowa State and said, "Nobody that looks like that should be that confident."
Fair.
What?
It's like, holy shit, dude. It was something to that effect. I guess
rough.
I should find the
Probably
That's
the
rough.
hair.
because
That's
that
funny.
sounded really bad. But
Anyway, he is going to be either at left guard or right guard for us for 26, and I'm excited about that. He's coming in with a ton of experience. He was in a good program under some good coaching. And obviously, I think anybody that's coming in here right now in the transfer portal that Jeep has his hands on, that's a dude that he wants.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about him putting guys on the line that he wants. Whether or not he believes in the guys that we already have and can develop them, This is a dude that he's reading in right now.
Look at that big fucker. There's no way he's under 300 pounds.
No, I saw him listed on I think an Iowa State post had him at like 331 or something like that.
That makes more sense.
He's a big dude. But another big one for us is Owen Chambliss, the linebacker that is 6'3", coming out of San Diego State. He's following Orich here. He's been in his system. He was extremely productive. I think he had like 105 tackles this year for San Diego State. He was the leader of their defense. He's going to be a perfect pairing with Vincent Shavers in that linebacker room. That's an elite pickup right there.
Do you guys think it's odd that we don't see any other players following him over? Or do you think they just didn't have any others that are good enough?
Well, they had an edge that went to Texas Tech for a fat check that everybody assumed was coming to Nebraska, but it is what it is there.
Well, anybody can go to Texas Tech for a fat check right now.
I mean, I understand we're seeing a lot of these other guys commit, maybe not sign, whatever. Commitment doesn't mean anything anyway. But it also has only been like 3 days. So maybe, it would have been nice to see more players, but let's not like panic about it.
You haven't even seen that many top players go yet.
Yeah. I mean, there are still players entering the portal now. And we had like 3 or 4 today at Nebraska. So it's like, okay, yeah, maybe of course, would it have been nice for, the day after the portal opens to see all these players commit to Nebraska? Of course it would. But there's been rumors of offensive linemen from Georgia Tech following Jeep Wade. I don't know that they've committed anywhere just yet.
They haven't.
Let them do their due diligence as well.
Go get a couple steak dinners.
Yes. Get some free trips out of it.
Yeah. Well, and just because guys aren't following dudes doesn't...
Maybe not to Georgia Tech, but...
Just because guys aren't following dudes or guys haven't signed yet doesn't mean that they're not talking in talks with and already working on other guys that maybe haven't even entered the portal yet.
Yeah.
Those things are still happening. There's guys that are on teams that might still be playing that, you look at Ole Miss. Yeah, they're on a magical run right now, but how many of those dudes are going in the portal after this season because they can? And they've just done a college football playoff run. They're going to go try and get paid as much as they possibly can.
Yep.
And they lost their coach. And who knows how many of the actual current coaching staff is going to be held over.
Well, and again, all of the 4 teams that are left are going to have players leave the portal once they lose. I mean, or go into the portal once they lose. So again, there's time. Like, yeah, the portal is only open for 2 weeks, but you can still sign people long after that. So it's like,
it's just
now is
to
not
enter,
the time
right?
to freak out. Yeah.
But the Ole Miss thing, I want to go back to that because, going back to your question about where we want to find a quarterback from, things like that, people need to just kind of chill it on the whole thing and expect that the coaching staff and the scouts and the scouting department are going to do what they need to do in order to find us somebody that's going to be good to come in here. Because you look at Ole Miss right now, who's on a run, they're in the Final Four for the college football playoff. That Trinidad Chambliss, who absolutely balled out and basically single-handedly beat Georgia. Not that the whole team didn't play well, but that dude absolutely went lights out. He's a Division II Ferris State transfer in.
Yep.
So you might find a diamond in the rough someplace. That doesn't mean that just because somebody comes from a lower level means they're going to ball out. Go look at what happened over at Iowa this year. They were not nearly as impressed with him as what they expected to be. And he was coming from a better program. So when you're looking at things, I think we all just need to pump the brakes a little bit, expect that the coaches, if you trust Matt Rhule, is the guy.
I was going to bring that up just as a devil's advocate thing. Not that I believe this, but there are people that are going to hear you say that, which I agree with, but there are also people that don't trust this coaching staff.
That's it.
And there have been transfers that have come in here that have not lived up to the so-called expectations, whether they came from a lower level
we've missed,
or they came from a higher level.
We've hit and we've missed for sure.
And to be fair, everybody's hit and missed.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that there is a group of fans out there that don't trust this coaching staff to bring it to be able to evaluate the talent that they need to come in here and win, sooner than
And that's fine. You're going to have those fans 100%. In every single fan base.
It's a fair thought process.
Yeah,
because it's not like they've given them ultimate confidence anyway.
It's been 3 years and we're losing the players we think are the saviors of the program.
Yeah.
Like that's agreed. I hear you, but
like I said, I agree with you. I still do trust the coaches, but like I said, devil's advocate side, I had to bring that up.
I know it's a different time, but I have to, every single time we talk about this, I have to bring up how long it took Tom Osborne to win a national title. Like,
yeah, you're not wrong there.
I'm glad you said it's a different time because I don't like that.
Well, we
argument
paid
anymore,
players
but-
back then too, and we gave them a lot more steroids than we do now.
To tell people that things are maybe even looking better than what we thought with Kenny Mincey coming in. Steve Sipple put out an article 32 minutes ago saying that Nebraska has quickly pivoted to DJ Lagway, back to looking at Aiden Childs, and then Anthony Colandria, and I don't know where he's from.
UNLV.
UNLV?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was already committed somewhere. So
I was actually just looking at him, and it didn't say anything.
yeah, I don't know. There's different things that are going to happen. I don't think anybody should be up in arms until it's all said and done. When we're rolling into February and we're looking at, spring training kicking off, and we're looking at whether or not we're going to have a spring game, which sounds like we're actually getting a real spring game back this year. I mean, there's going to be upside eventually. We all just kind of have to weather this storm right now while it's pushing through.
I mean, and I brought up the devil's advocate side of those fans in our fan base. Again, understandable. You're also still coming off of a disappointing season. So all of the feelings, all of the emotions are still very fresh that we're all trying to work ourselves through.
Absolutely.
So, again, it's an understandable thought process, but that's why we're trying to tell you, just take a deep breath.
Yeah, we're never emotional, never irrational, never overreact.
Never, ever, ever.
So totally listen to what we have to say.
If you want to feel good about some stuff, go watch some 90s film or go watch Nebraska basketball playing their last game at Ohio State here.
Yeah, they won, so.
They did. Also, in the comments, drop a line. Let us know. We're a football show, but if you want to hear some basketball stuff, we'd love to bring you some basketball content if that's what you're looking for. We're not going to try and bore you with it right now because we do still have football tagged on the end of our line. So there's that. You guys have anything else?
No, not really.
Not really?
I'm excited to see what the next couple weeks hold.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be back with you guys next week. There'll obviously be kind of a mid-portal update. I'm guessing there will be some things changed between now and then.
If nothing changes between now and then, I don't think we should do a show.
If nothing changes between now and then, we might have to do a Sky is Falling show.
Yeah, no kidding.
We'll see what happens.
There's time. Just relax.
Oh, yeah. We appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, share, follow. Drop us in the comments and let us know what you think.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.